Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Commerce Chats. It's great to be joined with you all. For those of you that don't know exactly what we talk about here, this is an initiative from EICOM where we have these really informal discussions, sometimes complex, sometimes challenging, but always informal, always open for debate and questions. Feel free to put any comments or questions in our YouTube chat box. We have some people behind the scenes who are going to pass the questions to me, and we can try and get our guest speaker to answer them. Always remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel, join our social media, follow along to get some updates, find out what we're doing, and find out where we're going to be and what we will be talking about. So today we're joined by a returning guest speaker, someone who I'm very fond of, someone who's very knowledgeable in the e-commerce space. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce George Brindeiro to Commerce Chats. George, it's amazing to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Krish, and for the nice intro. Do my best
No, you're very
share knowledge, right? This is what I'm all about.
Exactly. And this is what this space is about. But George, before we kind of go straight into the content, because I know that we've got a great topic, today for Commerce Stretch, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to where you got to, what you do, and yeah, just kind of what you're about. Go for it.
All right. So my name is George. I'm Brazilian American. So I was born in Brazil, but my mom's American. And I started off as a mechatronics engineer by training. So I study a lot of robotics, automation. That has a lot to do with what I'm talking about today. But then I transitioned to many roles. So I was working with robotics research, and then founded 2 startups. And then I started working as a school teacher, worked at e-learning company Udacity. And now I'm here at VTEX. Just, it's always about the knowledge, and it's always about education, but in different kind of aspects. And nowadays at VTEX, I work with the education and documentation team, and we're focused on all the content initiatives to scale our products globally. So documentation for developers, for users, training, online training, community, all that kind of stuff, just spreading the word.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, one thing that, we're in a similar sort of space when it comes to education. How do you feel, how did you kind of get into education? Was it something that you found rewarding? Was it just something that you thought, hey, I'm good at this? I'd love to know, just curiosity as well.
Yeah, it's really about the reward, I think. Ever since I was a kid, even like at school, I used to be like really into like a curious kid. I always like to learn new things. Like I learned how to code like simple HTML websites, so I could have my own Pokemon website when I was 11. And then like at school, I was always the kind of assistant to the teacher when it came to answering my friends' questions. And then that came to college. And then I started offering like courses for pay, like in the university, like, hey, I can teach you electronics, I can teach you programming, that kind of stuff. And it kind of just came to me naturally. It's something I enjoyed doing, like learning about stuff and sharing what I learned. And then, I don't know, opportunities just kept coming at me that were connected to that, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, it seems like you've got a passion, and I can feel that, when every time I have a conversation with you. And, my last question, which I promised before we jump straight into the content is, I've heard you talk about automation before, in various different aspects. What is it that draws you to automation? Why do you feel this is important for us to know and for us to kind of hear about? I feel like it's kind of, again, it's, we always have these daunting kind of topics in Commerce Chats, something that is daunting to me anyway, but why is it important, do you think? What's without giving too many spoilers? Sorry, jumping ahead.
For me, it's all about having time to focus on really important things that can't be automated. So, every once in a while, you start doing things in your work, as a teacher or as an e-commerce manager or as a tech manager, whatever. And you start doing things that you feel like, this isn't the best use of my time, right? Like, I know I have to do this, like fill in reports and, send out emails or whatever you need to do, but it kind of feels repetitive. Like you're doing a straight sequence of things that don't add a lot of value in themselves, but they're required. But the thing is, especially in these days, like there's infinite demand for work, right? You always have something to do at work. And if you have these things that are urgent but not important taking up most of your time, you'll never get to the important and not so urgent things, but the things that really make the difference when it comes down to your business or your team objectives. So for me, automation is all about freedom. It's all about getting people to use their brains for the things that their brains are wired up for. That's curiosity, collaboration, and innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually doing what you set out to do rather than be bogged down with kind of things that we could be smarter about, I guess. If you like these tips for everyone watching, I'm going to say again, definitely subscribe to our channel, join our social medias, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow along with us and be part of our community. George, let's jump into our presentation. Please go for it.
All right, let me just share my screen real quick. I think I lost you here, but I just found you again.
There we go. We can
Zoom always hits on my way. Can you see my screen fine?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let's get going. So the name of my presentation is Focus on What Matters with E-commerce Automation. So let's get right to it. So Krish, are you a robot? Just a quick question.
No.
Neither am I,
no.
right?
No.
I always see this reCAPTCHA checkbox when I'm like, why are you asking me if I'm a robot? But that's kind of always made me think about, like, should I be doing things like this, like repetitive tasks that, get me stressed most of the day, like get me to overwork or do things like that. And always when I feel like I'm getting to that mode, when I'm doing like repetitive operations and things that, I don't feel are the best use of my time, I always think about automation. And if you're not convinced that this is not what you want to be doing, here are 4 points that automation can help you with. First of all, it'll save you valuable time. You'll be able to not do things because a computer program is doing it for you. And that's what computer programs are really good at, doing repetitive tasks. So we're not really wired to do things 1,000 times, 10,000 times, right? We get tired and we get our attention span, it gets exhausted and we start making mistakes. But the thing about computer programs is if you code your algorithm, it'll do the same thing every time. So it's pretty much flawless. It's very good to make fewer errors. And when you have that time, that free time that automation gives you, you can get more stuff done. And actually, not only more stuff, but better stuff, right? The things that really matter, that really make a difference. And once you have that free time, you can start thinking like new possibilities, new things that you can be doing that couldn't otherwise be done if you hadn't automated out things that don't matter, and even things that are humanly impossible to do. But if you have a computer program do it, it's pretty easy. Okay, so just a simple guideline of how to think about automation. First thing, you always need to be on the lookout for things that always get done, right? The repetitive tasks, because automating something that you'll do once isn't going to have a lot of benefits. So find out those things, the really annoying things that get repeated all the time, the things that you would like to repeat, but you can't do repetitively because it's too much work. And then define how much better you'd like that to be. So sometimes you like things to be fully automated, but sometimes automating things fully is a lot of work. Maybe you could just automate a part of that step, and that's really good already. Once you know what the repetitive tasks are and what you want to achieve, then that's the time where you'll find the right automation tool. You'll train users who will operate it. And you keep track of what's going on in that system you created, that integration that could be really simple or really complex, depending on what you're doing. But it's always important to measure the results so that you realize that that's actually important. Sometimes we feel like automating something will have a great effect in the business, and it doesn't actually have that effect. So measuring results
George,
is really important. Go ahead, Krish.
Just a quick question here, which is, just looking at this screen here and kind of understanding this and trying to make it practical to myself, because I feel like I really need to, start to do some automation, get involved with this. You said identify repetitive tasks. Is that the starting point in learning about automation for myself, for example? Is it writing down the repetitive tasks I do? Is it just thinking about my day, or is it, is it perhaps thinking about all my different data sources? Where should I start as someone who's going to do this?
Okay. Oh, I'll get to it in the next
Okay,
few
I'm giving
slides,
spoilers.
but
Okay.
yeah, but I think definitely starting to look out and identifying those will help you kind of get into the sense, get a practical objective. Like it's really hard for you to learn about automation by itself. It's a lot easier for you to have something like a rough objective, a rough idea of what the ideal scenario would be like, because then you start kind of get the building blocks on top of your objective. If you're just like, I want to learn about automation as a whole, like it's infinite. So I always prefer to start off with a goal, and that's where the step one goes.
Great.
Well, let's start with a few workflows that can be automated in e-commerce specifically, right? EICOM is all about commerce. This is commerce chat, so let's talk about automation in e-commerce. So these 5 areas are abundant with opportunities for automation. So if you start looking at your business into customer experience and support, sales and marketing, purchase order approvals, vendor and supplier onboarding, order and inventory management, you'll probably see a lot of processes are very inefficient or they're very repetitive. And that's where I'd like to invite you, the audience who's watching us, to kind of reflect upon your own business and your own processes. Well, here are some examples. So for instance, in customer experience and support, you could, for instance, track and reward your most engaged customers. How would that look like? You'd, for instance, automatically check how many orders did that customer make in the last month. And for every order, you could add a value in a database saying like, how many points does that person have? And based off the amount of points that person has, you could possibly send out a gift card, for instance. So of course, you could manually go through your customers and manually check how many orders they made and manually, create a gift card. But if you do that automatically, it's just like, it's a money-making machine that's just working by itself for you. Same thing with syncing customers to an email list. So often you'll have your e-commerce platform, and that would be separated from your mail marketing platform. And how do you make sure that these databases are in sync? You could have an automation that would run, for instance, every time a new customer joins your store or makes some purchases or signs up for your store. And then once that's done, it'll send off like an API request to your mail marketing provider. So I start talking about APIs. I'll talk about tools soon, but just keep in mind, if you're doing integrations, having open APIs like VTEX does, spoiler alert, that's super important because it gives you the freedom to automate things that won't require you to click around. Right? APIs, if you're not familiar, that's kind of like the way computer systems communicate with each other. So if your e-commerce platform has a way to let you know or let you check which customers exist, and if your mail marketing software has the ability to receive a request and say like, hey, could you add this customer to your database? That would make it a lot easier for you to automate those flows. And then you have all these other customer experience and support flows, like asking for feedback after a purchase. You identify that someone made a purchase. A couple days later, like, how was your experience? Many people think they need to have a specialized tool and you need to pay money for that for every single interaction. That's not necessarily true. You can do a lot of these things in-house, either through really easy to use tools or a little bit of coding. But you don't need to necessarily get a specialized gather feedback after purchase tool. You could customize that a lot. Reach out after negative reviews or tag segment customers based on behavior. Those are all things that can be automated and that are extremely valuable in e-commerce. Going to order inventory management, you could do things like often printing shipping labels and printing your invoice and dispatching an order. Those are things that are made in separate places and that are prone to error. Could you imagine, like, you complete an order, but you didn't print the invoice, or you didn't print the shipping label, or you printed the wrong shipping label? That's super repetitive and super prone to error. So what if once you clicked complete order, that already triggered your printer to print the shipping label and the invoice for that order? That'll make things a lot easier, right? Also, you could send out reminders for customers that haven't ordered in a few weeks or few months, like, hey, do you want to buy this again? It's a simple rule based off a time trigger. You could also send out abandoned cart emails. That's super common in e-commerce. And even for inventory management, you could have a rule that would say, like, every time this product is low on stock, so it's under a certain threshold, send out an email to my supplier and say, like, hey, I want to order another batch. So that's something that you do on your own. But if you have it automated, you don't even have to manage your suppliers. You just send out orders. So that makes life a lot easier, and make sure that you don't get that stock out when you need it, right? So that's also a way for you to make sure that your planning is being executed. All right, so I just talked a lot about different things that could be automated, but how do you do it in practice, right? What do I need to learn about to actually go forward with e-commerce automation? These are some of the many tools that you could use. My favorite is Zapier, or Zapier, actually. I use it a lot. I think I have about 40 automations to this day, Zapier, just on our team at VTEX. But these are some other alternatives. There are some that are more open-ended, like Zapier or IFTTT. Power Automate is Microsoft's kind of clone of Zapier. There are things that are a lot more specific to e-commerce platforms or specific to e-commerce, like Shopify Flow. It's their tool for automation inside Shopify, Make, Workato. There are many tools that you could use, and if neither one of those are address your needs, these are some buzzwords you can use to find out more. So there's a lot of talk about, like, no code or data integration or business process management, workflow automation, iPaaS or integration platform as a service, or whatever word, like marketing automation, order automation, fulfillment automation, whatever. Google it. You'll find a lot of stuff because it's the right market, right? Saving time and saving money. Who doesn't want that, right?
George, just a quick question. I love that. I love the example that you gave for each different, area of an e-commerce business. It's just getting my mind going with different ideas for automation. But, would you say that automation is a weapon or a tool in a CRM strategy? Do you think it seems like it's very important in a CRM strategy? Yeah. Do you think that it has its place there as well? Like, what's your thoughts on
that? Definitely. I mean, CRM is all about managing your relationship with the customers, and for you to manage that at scale, automation is really helpful because you can enrich your customer records with things that you would normally not get out of your CRM or your e-commerce platform. So things like, did they purchase in a specific promotion, or did they interact with this email, or did they call customer support? There are some things that are naturally tracked by CRMs. There are things that aren't. But if you know about e-commerce automation, you could add those and have another layer of data to enrich things.
Yeah, perfect. I feel like some of these buzzwords as well, just switching topic here, they can be a bit daunting as well. But what's your best recommendation here to get around these buzzwords? Is it just to, like you said, it is good advice just to Google it and just get immersed in kind of learning about what these different things are, right? Is that your suggestion, I think?
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm gonna cough now. Just a second.
That's okay. Go for it. I'm gonna No, don't worry. That's
Sorry, I
absolutely
have
fine.
a bad throat today, but yeah,
It's okay.
definitely Google it and realize that buzzwords are just ways people have to put the message out.
Hmm.
But in the end, we're all talking about the same things, like less effort for more results. So
Yeah, absolutely.
if you don't know how to
Perfect.
code, or if you don't want to code, these are things that can help you integrate and can help you streamline processes.
Perfect.
All right. Sorry for the coughing.
That's
Back
okay.
to my regular self, I think. But all of these tools usually follow the same kind of automation idea. So this is the example I got from Zapier. Um, you can create workflows that are based off, number one, a trigger. So something that gets the action to run, right? An event that's relevant. And then based off that event, you have a series of actions. For instance, when someone registers for my event, you want to send send them an email to follow up after a few weeks, and then send them a welcome email. And I really love this copy they have in the Zapier website. That's why Zapier rhymes with happier. Enjoy more free time, because that's exactly how I feel when I do these things. And I actually have a concrete example I'll share from my team. But just to get a more concrete example of how automation actually works. So VTEX, I work with documentation, right? So we have our help center, and back in the day, we wanted to have an easier way for customers to reach out to us and let us know something was wrong. So we created this feedback button, and how it works is you click it, and then once you click it, you get a Google form. It's super simple. I didn't need to code anything specific. It's just a regular Google form. The thing I did code was it gets auto-filled once you click it with the actual page you're in, so you don't have that, don't have to go through the hassle. But then it goes into a regular spreadsheet. Until now, it's just a regular form, like anyone who has ever created a form in their lives. But what's special is I went to Zapier and I said, like, hey, every time I have a new spreadsheet row, that's the trigger, I want to send this channel message to Slack. So that's our team communication software. And there's this filter. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but it's a way for me to wait for something else to happen and then send another message. And this is the final result. So whenever we get feedback, it doesn't only get like shoved into our spreadsheet. It actually gets posted to a place where I'm looking, so I can take immediate action if necessary. And also I get another message there from this Jira bot, which is another automation, which is a task was created for my team to actually address it. So instead of having to, go to my spreadsheet, copy the information, create a Jira card so people can actually start with that task, all these repetitive things were taken care of. And now I have a place where I can reach out to Hiki, for instance, in this example, and say like, hey, nice feedback, check it out. This is some information they should know. So we're using our time, instead of copy pasting, we're using our time to discuss what we should do about it. And we're using our time to actually work on the feedback. So that's a simple example of how a typical automation workflow would be like with Zapier or some of these other tools. But keep in mind that tools are limited by their features. So for instance, I have this, they're like Lego building blocks, right? So if I bought my Lego kit for Simpsons and it looked like this, I would only be able to do things with these. Like I could maybe bend the legs or the arms, but that's about it. If I want to have more flexibility, coding is the skill that will get you there. So you could do like Bart Simpson and House, whatever way you want it, or you can reframe that as whatever you want. So what I really like about coding is how much freedom it gives me in creating what I imagine. And it's actually not that hard. Like I know if you don't code, and I'm telling you that, it's like, oh yeah, but you studied robotics. Of course you'd think it's not that hard. But honestly, there are levels of coding that of course are really hard, but you can get started really simple. So this is a course I took online, and I really recommend Ben Collins, Introduction to AppScript. You can Google it. It's 100% free. And I actually went through it. I already knew some of that Google Apps script. It's kind of a coding language for Google products, but it's really, 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 really simple. Ben does a great job just getting people started in their coding. It starts off with really simple examples. So this course and many others don't assume any prior experience, and you'll end this course with really actionable knowledge that will help you get to the other side. So these are some examples of things that Ben covers in his courses that I think are really useful. For instance, I don't know if you've ever had this situation, Krish, but I have. Sometimes you need to create a gazillion events on Google Calendar. And it's like so repetitive. You have to create the name, you have to click there and add the description and add the people. I had to do that for my team because we had to do syncs with different product teams, and each meeting had a different frequency and a different date and time and the people involved. And I literally did that. I created a spreadsheet, and a click of a button, dozens of events get created. How much time would I save with that? That's awesome. Another thing that you could do, maybe you have a bunch of client onboarding documents you need to create, like contracts or spreadsheets or, whatever, something you need to send out to customers that needs to be customized. And maybe you make a mistake by doing that. And that's also something you can do with AppScript pretty easily. So AppScript is based off JavaScript, which is a popular programming language for the web. But the neat thing there is that it connects all Google Suite products. So you can automatically generate Google documents and spreadsheets and slides and interact with your email and your, a bunch of things. So super nice, a great course, definitely recommend it. And just to wrap it up, I think we're getting to the final minutes here. Just a quick idea of how to measure the cost and impact of automated workflows. So first, the costs are what you pay to automate, right? Sometimes you need to pay for software licenses if you're not using free software. Thankfully, AppScript and Zapier are free, so I often don't have to pay anything. But sometimes I have to pay with working hours, so I need to put in the time to set it up and get it working. And of course, when I do that, maybe I have opportunity costs, either from the time that I'm investing in that, or from things like, once you automate it, you can't be flexible about how to treat different situations, right? A computer program is going to respond the same way every time. So you might lose the opportunity to switch things around every now and then. It will be a little bit more work. But the impact is time saved, it's revenue earned, it's the decrease in errors. So you always need to keep in mind, like, what am I paying for it and what's the impact? Right. Because if you're, for instance, if you're automating something that you'll do once, you're not going to be saving a lot of time by automating, and maybe you'll be investing a lot more time than you should. So to put it concretely, in my team, I have this thing I started doing every month called documentation reports. Basically, I'm getting all the Jira tasks from 16 people who work with me and making, like, kind of building out this dashboard and this list of, these are the things that you did this month. And it was a lot of work. So before, it took me 2 hours every month to export and import data from Jira to Google Sheets. Then I had to filter data by assignee. And then I had to copy paste, I think I missed the T there, the columns I needed in the right sheets. So 2 hours every month, that's 24 hours, a full day in a year. After I automated it, it now takes me 10 minutes, and it's 10 minutes of effortless observation. I just click a button and watch it do the magic. So
this is super powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just in terms of time, money, everything you just covered. I think this is a really powerful slide, isn't it? And energy, brain power, bandwidth, for sure.
Like, I had to be really focused not to make any mistakes, and now I just watch it work. Of course, I had to invest time, the 4 hours of coding, the time that I used before to study all these tools that enable me to do it. But the really neat thing is that after I invested it, I can even delegate this work. I don't need to have someone that really knows what I was doing because I already coded all the logic. So that's actually what I did. So just to wrap it up, if you feel like you're this guy, maybe you want to let the robots do the heavy lifting. That's what I have for today, Krish. Thanks.
Awesome. That's so cool. Thanks. And you've put your LinkedIn there as well, so people can add you. That's amazing. Actually, George, I've got some questions. Actually, so you mentioned the cost of doing automation, but do you feel that businesses, in your opinion, do you think that they should be investing active, an investment in getting people to do automation, and this should be part of their strategy? Because we talked about cost, but I'd like to
Yeah.
know about proactive investment. Do you think it's something
Yeah.
people should be doing?
Yeah. I think that this has to be analyzed on a case-to-case basis, but looking around, customers we support with VTEX every day, and just the general, every work environment I ever worked in had inefficiencies. And automation's really a powerful tool to improve operational efficiency. So, like I said, there are many areas that are ripe with opportunities to be better, to be more efficient. And it just comes down to, are they ready to take on the challenge, and are they ready to become an even more efficient company by doing automation? Sometimes there are things that honestly need to get investment before that. So if you don't get the right people for your team, or if you don't get the right suppliers, if you don't get the right core tools like your e-commerce platform, no amount of automation will save you. But once you have something running, automation will open up space for even more innovation. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in even the case that you suggested, everything in e-commerce is related to generally their go-to-market capacity. So, that was a really excellent, productivity case. The example that you showed us. We do have one question. I know we're a little bit over time, but I'm going to ask it anyway if I can.
I'm okay.
Oh, perfect. So this is maybe this is a tricky question, but in an omni-channel, the question goes, in an omni-channel operation, a physical store starts to have more online processes. What do you believe is the best way to automate the processes inside a store? Is it by order management or sales tools? Do you recommend starting or focusing in a specific task at first? That's really the question, really an omni-channel approach there. Could you shed some light on that?
Yeah, I don't think that's specific to omni-channel operations, but in general, I would definitely focus on one task that I can measure and optimize for, so I can move on to the next one. So I don't think anyone who doesn't have experience with that should be like, let's automate all the things. You need to get experience, and you need to get a sense of how hard things can get sometimes. So I definitely choose like, what's the biggest pain point of the store? What's losing more opportunities for revenue? What are the things that people are making the most mistakes on? And thinking about creative ways that reduce the time spent or reduce the amount of errors. And that also, like when I went to school for mechatronics, we had one class that was production quality engineering. And we study a lot about like Japanese production techniques and management styles. And one thing that really stuck with me was there are some really simple ideas that have nothing to do with automation, but have everything to do with automation. Like one spot for everything, and everything in their own spot, or make sure that everything flows correctly, or don't leave any broken windows or things out of place. Just these really simple things help optimize, but then it shows you the opportunities like, hey, this is really not working. Like our returns policies are a disaster. So how can we improve that? And then, think of clever ways, and these systems are connected, and this is the, source of problems. So I wouldn't be able to comment about like the actual problems in the physical store because I'm not so familiar with the context there. But things like fulfillment, you want to package an order and get it ready to be shipped. Maybe make sure that through your OMS you have a really simple and streamlined process that people don't have to click in 5 different systems. If that's your situation, you definitely want to automate that or simplify it, make it one click, that kind of thing. I think we can go offline if someone wants to reach out to me and on LinkedIn, I can assess their specific situation.
Awesome.
But yeah, definitely look out for problems, things that are prone to mistakes or time consuming.
Yeah, I think it's a great answer. And I think going back to, different types of methodologies, this continuous improvement is something we've explored in some of our CMX exams as well. So this approach is really interesting, being better than you were previously and trying to map out these. It was an awesome presentation, very enlightening. And I loved, George, learning about the hidden ways that you can automate things, and then it can, like you said, be a bit of a money spinner. It can generate revenue and really affect the bottom line for e-commerce businesses and operations. You mentioned one course as well. What was the name of the course, if you don't? Do you remember?
Introduction to Google Apps Script by Ben Collins. I'll send the link in the YouTube comments so everyone has access to it. Maybe I'll get the referral link from Ben, because I'm always recommending his course. No, just kidding. It's a great course. Everyone should do it.
Yeah, thank you very much. And, it was, again, amazing presentation. Thank you so much for sharing that knowledge. For those of you watching at home, if you really enjoyed that, then, subscribe to our channel, follow our social media, and stay tuned. Watch our next Commerce Chats. But thank you, George, for an amazing presentation and for, sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Perfect. We'll see everyone soon. Yeah, till next time. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.